Yeah, so we're metal, heavy metal band from Arkansas, United States. We got together about 2011, end of 2011. The band consists of four brothers and me. So when I joined the band, our youngest two were 11 and 12 or 10 and 11, something like that. And we've gone all the way with each other to up to them. Everybody in the band now married and has kids. So we've got a lot of life changes and stuff going on. We're very much Christian band, very much into our faith, and putting that on display in the music that we play and that we bring to people. About interfacing with people and talking to people, shows and on online on Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that. So we're really care about people, love God, love metal.
Excellent. So have you always like grown up in the faith and then you wanted to be in a band, so you kind of made a faith kind of band, or did that kind of come later? Well, obviously the name Every Knee Shall Bow, I would imagine it started as a kind of a Christian thing, yeah?
Yeah, so all of us grew up um, as Christians. And there, different levels to different things that we've all gone through in our lives, but fundamentally our parents instilled or helped develop that in us. And then as we grew and matured in our faith, we took that with us. But so it kind of is the logical step for us. We don't shy away from that because it's what's in our hearts. It's what we love. So yeah, it was just natural. I was in one band prior to Every Knee Shall Bow, and the rest of the dudes in the band aren't Christian. But what I was writing for lyrically, like that was, it was still what I believe and what's in my heart. And at the end of the day, for us, it's praise. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, fantastic. I mean, I kind of became aware of you guys like a lot later on after, um, well, I think I wouldn't. I think basically after you guys kind of went on a bit of a hiatus, and it's been like I just found Slayers of Eden and I was just like, man, that album was just absolutely brutal. It was just amazing. It seemed so like ahead of its time, because I thought I was listening to something that maybe came out this year, but it was like 2013 or something, wasn't it? What was the like it was so visionary. What went on in the writing process for that album? How did you approach your big album, I guess?
It's funny because there's a lot of like there's a lot of time um progression of years that went into that album. No Longer Slaves was the first song that they wrote before I was even in the band.
Right.
I came in and I put the lyrics to it with the ideas the theme that they had kind of wanted for the song to begin with. But there were three songs I think that we had already written when I joined the band in 2011. Um, and then for the next year, we were writing the rest of the album. And we recorded it in around 2012. I think one of the things that, besides just like the time and kind of figuring out how to write music and
Mm.
like coming with these cool ideas and working together on it, the other thing is like the backgrounds that we have are unique. I'll say that. The guys, the rest of the guys in the band, their dad super into thrash, like Exodus and Testament.
Yeah.
But then they also, as they grew up, they started listening to like Four Today, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I got into metal super late. I say super late. Now it's been a while, but in senior year of high school, I started listening to Under Oath and Oh Sleeper and Norma
Mhm.
Jean and all those guys. And so taking and putting kind of those two ideas together, like I think you get a lot of really cool metal themes in our album that you don't get in a lot of other places because we take so much inspiration from so much kind of different genres of metal. And people ask us what type of metal is it? I was like, I don't know, man. It's heavy metal.
Heavy metal, that'll do. It's funny, man. It's funny you should say that because I mean I'm in a band myself, and you get people asking you, hey, describe your you're talking to other bands. Hey, describe your band. Tell me about your music. How do how do you define it? And people give you this big old smorgasbord, like a shopping list of like oh, which is kind of a progressive, it's a progressive death slash metal alt rock club, and then it kind of goes on and on and on like that, and you just like you have a listen to it, and you're like, yeah, that's just metal. That's just metal, is all it is. And kind of find for myself, I think giving the simplest titles is the best. It's just a metal band. But I saw on your website or something that you kind of referred to as like a melodic death metal or something like that,
Mm.
and I've never been.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that came from the label that we were on that
Yeah.
that just kind of put that out there. I would not call us melodic death metal.
No.
That
I mean, I don't like death metal. Like, that's just it's not like I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's just not something that like aesthetically like kind of appeals to my ears. I guess it's never been something that I've really enjoyed. But I obviously really enjoyed your music. I thought it was more like a kind of a deathcore vibe, certainly with the way that the vocals are. But then you start putting in like some clean vocals as well all over the place, which
Mhm.
kind of takes it a little bit further away from deathcore for
Right.
me at least. So it's like, yeah, I'm liking the fact that you kind of got this like melting pot of different genres and stuff that
Yeah.
kind of make the sound kind of better. So obviously the lyrics though, you said that they're quite, they are kind of God honoring. They're quite, scripturally based, I guess. So
Mhm.
how do you go? What is your process for writing, and how do you bring your faith into that?
Yeah, so that it's changing over time, but back when we wrote Slayers, um it was really like what do I think what do I think this song is about? And starting there and then going into, biblically, like s- just looking through scripture and starting to write from that. There's some older songs that it's like almost word for word out of like stuff, Romans. Um, Slayers of Eden is, pretty much a depiction of the fall, right?
Mm,
So it's really starting there and then kind of developing that into um a little bit of a story or a conversation. Um, that's the process, and then the newer stuff is intended to tell a story. If you start with Birth and start, well, only have two songs right now, but you have Birth and Rise, you put them together, and it's kind of starting to tell a story. And so, but each theme in the story is a like goes back to something in your walk in your Christian life. Um, so yeah, it's really just coming up like what is this song about? What is something on my heart? And
mm.
then like going back to the Bible and then figuring out from there.
Hey, this interview was recorded for the UCB1 Rock Show, the only place on national radio in the UK currently playing Christian hard rock and heavy metal. If you want to tune in, even if you're outside of the UK, why don't you go check out the information in the first pinned comment and the description below. Okay, let's get back to the interview. I mean, it feels like when you listen to a lot of pop music, pop music, a lot of, when you go to church and you see like stuff like your Hillsongs and those kind of music that they tend to, that they play in worship music, there seems to be a very select few verses that they kind of bring up, Jesus walking on the water, the chains being broken,
Mhm.
the prison walls falling down, these kind of things. And you don't
Yeah.
tend to see that much in alternative music. They do reference some of those themes, but a lot of the time, the biblical verses that they're bringing up are quite disparate, they're quite different, aren't they? So,
Mhm.
do you have any specific place that you think is good ground for hunting for biblical ideas for songs, or is it just wherever you are at that season in your life?
Place that I hunt is church,
Yeah.
Bible study. Like, I mean, I've got ideas just from studying Revelation, right?
Mm,
Or Romans or Daniel. Like, I have all these ideas kicking around, and then my life every day in my walk with God. So, like, that's kind of the hunting ground.
mm,
Um, just going through life and like then what do you do every day in your Christian walk? You like take what the Bible says and you apply it, and it's kind
mm,
of the same thing. take what the Bible says and apply it in the songs. And like um the Lion's Teeth is an example of that. It's just the brutal honest conversation about struggle with sin, right?
Yes.
Um so like yeah, just every day is something that we could apply. And so
Mm.
if it speaks to you and then you can write it into a song, then like that's where it comes from.
Nice. I think The Lion's Teeth is probably my favorite song on that whole album. It was just really in your face. It was really, really good. I've had that on repeat actually today. It's just so good. I really, really enjoyed that. So, obviously you kind of touched on the song Birth, which is you haven't released that one yet, have you? I think that's brand new.
So
Is it?
that no, Birth came out in probably like 5 years ago.
Was
But
it?
yeah,
Oh, crikey, that's me getting confused, man. Like I thought the
that's
last two singles were Rise and oh
Birth.
no, no, I've written it down here. Singles birth was like November 6th, 2018. Read your notes. I do apologize. So,
Mm.
yeah. So, what is it's been a couple of years since you released a track and whatever, and I noticed that you had to cancel a show in like 2022 because of COVID and whatever. So,
Uh-huh.
it tells me you are like at least getting together and getting moving and stuff. So are you is there on the horizon, is there some more every knee shall bow that we can look forward to?
Yeah, we're not done. Um, it's one of those things where the conversation continually comes back up and we're working on stuff. We have ideas. We've got like my studio where we do the, tracking and everything. So we have everything set up. And like so we have ideas and the hard part is the other thing that I mentioned earlier is the fact that we went from a bunch of dudes in a band with one guy that had a kid to now all of us are married and have kids. And so there was a period where we were split all over the state, and now Drew, Cole, and I are back in Little Rock, all together. So Central Arkansas all together.
Hmm.
DJ is up in Northwest Arkansas, so he's like 2 hours away. So
Oh,
we're in a spot where it's still a little bit tricky, but with the technology that's advancing and all of that, and the fact that Drew, Cole, and I are all close together, like we're working on stuff. We had last year a bit of a hard time that we went through when their dad was in a lawnmower accident and he ended up passing because of that. And so it's been another catalyst to
right.
like more desire to like he loved Irving Chabal, and we couldn't have done what we did without him backing us when we were starting out. He was booking shows constantly while he was supposed to be working, that kind of thing. So like just amazing driving force to help us. And so like, that takes us back to, hey, this is not only do we love this, but
Hmm.
we also want to, like honor his memory. And
Hmm.
so there's that is helping kind of push us as well. But then, you also still have the guys are playing hockey and
Hmm.
or doing the dirt bike thing and everything. So it's slow for that reason, but we're definitely not done. And
Excellent.
my intent my intent is to develop the songs, the singles into an EP or an album.
Okay.
So that's kind of the goal, and that's why I've started the story. Like I said, it's there's a story that's happening there. So we'll kind of find out what that's all about in the future.
That's fantastic. So obviously, I mean, while I was emailing you to get this thing set up, you mentioned that you obviously had a bit of kind of a good news or blessing in the family. Do you want to maybe just tell us about that? Because that's awesome.
Yeah, so my wife and I had our first daughter, who's now a month old as of yesterday. So I was the last one to join the party, but we're we're excited about that.
It's just amazing, man. Like I know exactly what you're talking about when you're saying like when we first started out, like we weren't like we were just I guess a bunch of kids just kind of doing their thing, and now everybody's got kids and,
Mhm.
responsibilities. And it gets hard, doesn't it, to, find a place for kind of music when you've got like real world responsibilities. It's just like super difficult to kind
Yep.
of do that. And I mean, I was talking to an English band the other day, and this guy was just like trying to say, "Hey, man, like nobody nowadays wants to pay for anything. We can't even sell singles to make money." So it's like, obviously, you have to kind of back the things that put money in the bank. So, it's kind of these kind of things become like a part-time job. And we also spoke to a band called Foregone, which I don't know if you know those guys. We spoke to
I'm
those recently.
familiar.
Yeah, yeah. They're working in more like a kind of a studio project way now, where they just kind of share files within each other to kind of just release tracks virtually, and then with a view to like, I guess when they've got more time and going out live in future, just going out and doing gigs at that point. It's just a different world, isn't it now? I
Yeah.
guess I don't know if it's like just maybe it's a better world because you've got all this virtual stuff you can do and streaming without actually having to go out, or maybe it's a worse world because like no one pays for. I don't know. What's your thoughts on the way that the music industry is moving when it comes to kind of monitor that kind of stuff?
So, mm, I feel like for us, it's been that way for the most part the whole time. Like if we're at a live show, like cool, we're selling CDs because people want it. They're coming to a live show, that's what they want, right? They
Yeah.
want something physical, CD shirts.
Mm,
But at the end of the day, like it's still, it wasn't like we were working jobs to pay to be on the road weekends, right?
mm,
Um, but but yeah, so like that's very similar. What I've seen myself in the industry recently with a bunch of different bands that have done where they've moved to like the single content,
okay.
and we get sometimes more singles but less full albums. I'm an album guy.
Mm,
So like for me, that's been a hard switch because it's like, oh cool, well you put out two singles in, a few months, but I don't want that. Like I'd rather wait 2 years and get 10, 10, 11 songs that are cohesive with each other. And so like that's the interesting thing that I've seen, especially since COVID,
yeah.
where people are like, okay, we're kind of staying apart. And hey, this model works because we can get engagement and push this stuff out.
Mm,
Um, I don't know if it's necessarily worse or better. I think it's interesting because it feels like like it's almost like the radio, where
mm,
you've got these like pop bands. You know like one song, like one single from their album, right?
yeah.
And then I don't know, it's like now all of a sudden that's my world with metal for a while for
Mm.
some of these bands. But it looks like it's kind of like on the flip side, we're seeing more albums come out recently. Um, at least I am.
Hey, real quick, if you're having a good time today, please remember to hit that thumbs up button and leave us a comment below. It really helps this to get shared out to more people. And if you really want to help do that, why don't you share this video with a friend or drop it in a social media group of choice? Okay, let's get back to the interview. Yeah, I mean it's definitely true. I think we live in a world nowadays where people have like really short attention spans, and I don't know if people are consuming content like maybe they used to. Where I mean, I'm with you. I absolutely love just to sit down and just enjoy an album from beginning to end. It feels the story that they're kind of trying to tell. It's really good, but I think a lot of people are just kind of like you've got Spotify algorithmically serving you up like, okay, if you liked this, then you might like that, and then it's just pulling all these different bands and artists, just trying to keep hitting you with the best tracks from the bands that will be most likely to really like set you off. So they're not really playing you like a full album on the kind of discovery algorithms anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's why bands are kind of going, right, well, if I just drop one track every 1 month, 2 months, rather than, over the year, do 12 tracks rather than one album once, because that cycle of attention gets stopped, doesn't it, after like
Yeah.
a few months. So I guess they're just trying to eke it out a little bit. But yeah, I don't know, I still like a nice a nice kind of hard copy of a CD. Although I don't actually own a CD player, so uh, that's terrible, isn't
Yeah. Well,
it?
I don't think I have a CD player anymore, but random have the record player on the um you're sitting over here. So it's funny like the switch too to putting more vinyl out.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's happening in the UK, but like
it
over
is.
here,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Like it's weird, isn't it? It's weird, isn't it? You people like there's this tangible thing about vinyl. It's just they say that it sounds warmer or something, and so I think there is definitely it's weird. It's you can't really get hold of CDs very well. You don't usually buy very many CDs, but you can
Mhm.
get records, and bands are doing it
Yeah.
a fair old amount. And it's a weird thing because on YouTube, a similar thing has happened. They have been talking about the Mr. Beastification of YouTube, right? Where so like rapid cutting and really fast attention seeking. And then there's been this big thing to move completely away from that to just long form, slow chatting kind of content where it's kind of unscripted and more personal because like AI seems to be getting involved with things and the personality seems to be coming out. I think people are craving maybe like a personal connection nowadays. I don't know if you've noticed any of that in your kind of media bubble at the moment.
A little bit. Yeah. I'm a long format type of guy anyway, kind of like albums. Like I know the stuff I consume is like educational, like longer 30, 40. It's I've never gone down to the lower like shorter videos and stuff. Like I just I like to learn. I like to stuff that I can be more engaged in, right?
Yeah.
So, but I know I know what you're talking about, and it's interesting because there was a conversation probably 6, 7 years ago when YouTube or however long someone's gonna call me on it, but with when YouTube introduced the shorts
Mm,
to be like Instagram reels and I guess TikTok and all that. And it was like, but this is a race to the bottom now.
mm.
So I think there were people that push back against that, and it's nice that like we still have the ability to have the long form stuff. So bands, more albums. That's what we
100%. And I think with that TikTok kind of stuff, it's kind of like I think the way I kind of understand it is it's like short form, like massive dopamine hits, like really kind of quick, bang, 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 bang. Um, and I think that basically what it's where we are in the world is that it's bringing it all the way back to where we started talking about faith. It's kind of like I think people are just trying to fill a hole with just like these very easy to digest, very quick bites of stuff, and they don't really ever get into the meat of a really deep conversation. And I don't know, it just kind of feels like we're craving being distracted as a society and stuff rather than I don't know, just wanting to, like you say, learn and look deeply into things. And I think that's
Yeah.
just the sadness of the way that our society is kind of going. And I think that's just epidemic of just moving away from God, in my humble opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So, I mean, obviously, for the future, with Every Knee Shall Bow, you're trying to get together and do some more kind of writing and get some stuff. Do you ever see yourself getting out on the road again? And I mean, what are your feelings about like the live shows? I've seen some epic pictures of you like live, so it's like, what? Do you miss
Yeah,
that?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. The I think the unfortunate thing that we run into is unless something exploded,
Mm,
and even if it did, being on tour is probably not, or at least more than like, hey, we're gonna figure out 5 days, like something like that. I don't
mm,
think touring is in our future, like unless comes down, like, or he just puts in front of us, like, hey, this is what your families need to survive
mm,
through being able to do this, and and also our families and wives and children saying, yeah, it's gonna be tough with you guys being on the road, but we're 100% for that. Without that happening, the priority, God, family, right? Um, and so, however, that being said, festivals, like,
mm.
it's just something that we crave and we want to get back to. And I think it's something that we want to try to push more when we start getting that music back out.
Yeah, 100%.
Um,
Fewer shows, but bigger and better would be
which
the
is,
formula. Yeah.
yeah. And then, but the problem with that is if we're not out on the road proving that we can get people to come watch us, then the bigger shows, like, it's like, why would we book you? Right. So there, like that's we haven't been on the road in like 8, 9 years or whatever, right? Like
Mm,
consistently.
mm,
So yeah, it's an interesting position to be in. So we might have to do some proving again. Hopefully, like when we put out the music, it's awesome. People want to
Yeah.
hear it, and then maybe
Yeah.
it can help us propel onto those spots that we want to be.
Well,
But yeah,
I saw a For the Rock video the other day, just kind of reacting to one of your newer tracks. I think it was Rise. I think it was
yeah,
Rise that he was
yeah.
reacting to, and yeah, I mean, I think he kind of summed it up really perfectly. It was just kind of like, yeah, man, these guys are like one of these underrated bands that everybody really kind of needs to know about. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, I think there's like a big like there's a swell of people out there just really kind of dig your music. So I think when you're ready, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who just be looking to hype it big time. I'm personally just really excited to see what you come out with, man.
That's super encouraging. And that you know, you mentioned For the
Mm,
Rock, Kingdom Core, Christian Metal Promotion, those dudes, like they're doing so much right
mm,
now for the Christian metal community. Like that I can't say enough good things about those guys.
yeah. And
We
they've been
there
doing it
was
for
a
years
huge
as well, haven't they?
there's a huge difference between when we put Birth out and
Mm,
those guys weren't doing that, and
mm,
when we put Rise out and they were.
mm,
Um, way more engagement and way more our ability without a label backing us
mm.
to you know get that out to people. So yeah, those really good things going on there.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's about all the time that I've got to chat with you today. So, Chris Hall from Every Knee Shall Bow, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us today, man. It's been awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What a fantastic conversation with Chris Hall from Every Knee Shall Bow. If you would like to find out more about the band, including keeping up to date with all of their releases when they do come out, get yourself down to the description. I've listed all of Every Knee's socials right down there. If you've had a good time, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and come back next week when we're going to be talking to Mark and Jimmy from Veracruz. Until next time, take care. Goodbye.